Hi, I'm Chris Shattuck with Blue How To, and in this video we're going to be talking about installing the Acquia Drupal Stack. I'm going to give you a quick elevator pitch to start out with so that you know why I think that you should install Acquia Drupal, why it's a good idea. Then we'll go through the process of installing, configuring, and then removing the Acquia Drupal Stack on a Mac. We'll do the same thing on a PC, just in case you're using a different operating system. Okay. Let me go ahead and get started with the elevator pitch. Firstly, the Acquia Drupal Stack works well with other stacks. So if you've got some other stack installer already installed, like MAMP or WAMP or MAMP, then you can install the Acquia Drupal Stack and it'll run concurrently with it. And it works right out of the box. So you install the Acquia Stack installer and you have a Drupal site ready to go. Included in that is PHPMyAdmin, a useful browser-based tool to help you manage your website. And you can import from another stack. So say you have a website that's been created or that you're working with that's on a remote server, you can go ahead and download those files, export the database, and then import it into your Acquia stack using a nice little wizard. And finally, the stack uses Acquia Drupal, which has a number of the most useful and common modules already built in and enabled. Okay, let's go ahead and go through the process of installing, configuring, and removing the stack on a Mac. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to download the installer from Acquia. We're going to run the installer script. We're going to add a new site. And then we're going to import an existing site into the stack. We'll take a review of all the interface elements that we didn't touch on in going through those processes. And finally, we'll uninstall the stack. Okay, let's go ahead and get started by downloading the installer. I've got a link here to download it. So we're going to the Acquia site, and you can see here they have the stack installer for Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. What we're going to do is download the version for Mac. Okay, now that we've got it installed, we're going to go ahead and mount it by double-clicking, and then we're going to go ahead and double-click on the Acquia Stack Installer.app. Okay, now we have the installer up and running. Let's go ahead and go through the different steps. It's telling us what it's installing. Agree to the license agreement. We can change the default location where the stack is installed and where our default site is first exported to. We can change the ports, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave these as is. Okay, I'm going to leave the title to the default. We're going to create a user. I'm going to put in a password, confirm it, and then an email. I'm going to click Next. It gives us a little report on what it's about to do. And now we click Next to begin installing. This process can take a little while, so we're just going to go ahead and skip through it. Alright, now that it's done installing, we can go ahead and launch the control panel and get access to our new site. I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. This is the Acquia Drupal control panel, and we have the Apache web server here and the MySQL database server here. And when these are bright green, it means that they are on and running. We can go ahead and click this button, go to My Site, to go to our Acquia site that we just installed. Here you can see we've got our site, and now we can begin manipulating this site, doing whatever it is that we need to with it. Okay, so we ran the installer script. Now let's go ahead and take a look at adding a new site to it. In this drop-down, we can select More. Here we can select New, and we can create a new site. So we'll go ahead and call it New Site. By default, the Acquia Stack installer will select a new database name, a server, and a subdomain for the site. So when you go to this site, it will be http://new, which is our subdomain, .localhost, and then the port 8082. And it also sets the username and password and an email address for this site, which should match up with what we had before. And that should match up with what we had in our previous site. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You can see our new site is being built behind the scenes. And now we have our new site. And if we want to, we can click the Go To button and go to our new site. So now we have two Acquia sites built on our stack. Let's take a look at how this is structured. So if we double click on our new site, we can see that we have some information here that we can change. The server, the subdomain, and the URL path. We're not going to mess with the URL path, but if you wanted to edit that, you can edit your hosts and Apache config file to add a new URL. And here it tells us where our site is stored. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So we took a look at adding a new site. Let's go ahead and import an existing site. To import, we're in this sites area. Again, let me go ahead and hit cancel so you can see how we got here. We went here to this drop down and then selected more. We're going to select import. We're going to select the location to the website. And I just selected a path to a Drupal site, the base site. If this was a multi-site installation of Drupal, then we can select which installation we want to pull in. I'm going to keep it at default. We're going to go ahead and keep. I have a MySQL database dump file for my site selected. I'm going to browse for the dump file. I'm going to select a name for this. We're going to select a new subdomain, and I'm going to click import. So now if we see here, we have three sites. We have our default site, we have the site that we created from scratch, and then we have the site that we imported. Now that we've imported a site, let's go ahead and review the rest of the interface. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel to get out of here. So here on our main control panel page, we have on the left hand side, we have the two services that we'll be running to create our stack. We have a big button here that will allow us to stop that. So if I click it, you see here the lights go off next to Apache Web Server and MySQL Database Server, but we can click Start to restart it. The Go to My Site button allows us to jump to any of these sites, so you select which site you want to go to and then click Go to My Site, and it will take you there. If we click Manage My Database, then the PHP MyAdmin interface will load. You see over here on the left-hand side, we have a few different databases whose names correspond to the different Drupal installs that we either created or imported. And we can also click on Settings. Let's go ahead and do that. So here we have a few startup options. By default, the Apache and MySQL servers will start when the control panel is opened. We can also open the site, our default site, when the control panel opens. We can set different ports if we need to change that. We can change the location of our configuration files for our stack. So if we want to change the Apache, MySQL, or PHP configuration files, we can do that here. So if we wanted to change them, this is one place that we can go to find out where they're located, but we can also change the location as well. If we click the edit link, the configuration file will open up in a text editor, and we can go ahead and edit it right there. If you want to know more information about your stack, you can click PHP info and see what particular variables are set for Apache and PHP. Next to config is logs, and you can see here that we have different logs. We have the Drupal log, which is part of our Drupal website. We have Apache and MySQL logs as well. If we click next to that to sites, we see the different sites that are available to us. We can select new to create a new site, import to import, go to jump to that site in our browser, edit to change the details, and delete to get rid of it. Okay, now that we've taken a look through the interface, let's go ahead and uninstall the stack and get rid of it. The first thing we need to do is make sure that the control panel is closed for the Acquia stack. So I'm going to go ahead and click the exit. You can see that it's stopping the services. And now I'm going to go to Applications. Under Acquia Drupal is the uninstall app. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Click yes. And it will uninstall all of the different sites, all of the stack information as well, and you'll be as clean as you were before you installed the stack. Okay, and when it's done, this dialog box will pop up to let you know that it's done, and we're good to go. Okay, now let's take a look at doing the same thing but for a PC. So the first thing we need to do is download the installer from Acquia. I've already done that. Next we need to go ahead and run the installer script. Let's take a look at the interface once we've done that, and finally we'll go ahead and uninstall the stack. Now I'm in Windows, and I've downloaded the Acquia Drupal Stack for Windows. I'm going to go ahead and double click it to open it. I'm going to click Next. It allows us to install the Xmail server, which allows us to send email from our Drupal install, as well as the core components. It tells us what we're going to install. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. I'm going to accept the license agreement, click Next. We can select where we want to save our stack and where we want our first site to be. We can change the ports. And then we can set particular information for this Drupal install. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. It gives us an output of what's about to happen, and I'm going to click Next. Next one more time. And you can see that this process is very similar to what it was for the Mac. So now we're just going to wait for it to install the stack and our first Drupal website. Alright, when it's done, we get the same dialog box that we did with the Mac. And we can go ahead and launch our control panel. Once everything is running, we can click Go to My Site, and it'll take us to our site. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the interface real quick. So we go to Settings. We have the same options that we did on the Mac. Same with the ports. Configuration, again, same thing. Our configuration files might be in a slightly different location on a PC versus a Mac. We can set where our logs are going to be stored, how to get to them. And finally, we have our Sites tab that allows us to create new sites, import sites, and edit existing sites. And that's it. If you want an instant development environment, go ahead and download the Acquia Drupal Stack, follow the steps in this video, and you're good to go. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.